Okay, so today we're starting the bass clarinet and marimba series with a piece by Yiyang Wang called Converse 2 from 2020. So this recording, I did find a recording, but it looks to be a sort of pandemic concert. So it's part of a larger concert of pieces. I will make sure that the link in the video description today is to the correct time in that video, so you don't have to worry about scrolling through and finding it. It's for Transient Canvas, this Boston-based ensemble, which commissions a lot. The marimba needs to be 5 octaves, and the bass clarinet, its lowest note is a C sharp, so you need the low C extension in this thing. The extended techniques or symbols, timbral trills, are notated with a slash through the note heads of the alternate fingerings. I guess, well, there's a conventional timbral trill, and then what I was just describing, they call a color fingering, but it's just a rhythmic timbral trill. Slap tongue is notated with an X note head. If it's unpitched, overblowed harmonics are just a diamond note head. The marimba has rim shots, which are notated with an X on the stem. So transient canvas consists of Amy Advocat and Matt Sharrock. They've commissioned a repertoire of over 90 works over the years. They have an annual paid composer fellowship program, which they started in 2017. And they maintain an active touring schedule, and they've been resident composers at USC, University of Miami, NYU, and Longy's Divergent Studio. There's this GitHub, which seems to be more of a computer science researcher, but it says here I was a music composer in the past, so this could be them. Maybe their CV will confirm. I mean, their CV is formatted like their score with the orange lines, so this is probably them. They have a website here, which is just the GitHub, and they did a Master of Music and Composition at Johns Hopkins. They did a BFA at Reed College before then in Portland, Oregon. And then they pivoted into computer science, currently doing a PhD in computer science at the University of Rochester. Interested in large language models, so what the public refers to as artificial intelligence. And no list of works here because this isn't particularly focused on her musical work, but yeah, interesting seeing where she's ended up since composing this 6 years ago. So, yeah, that is all the context you need, I believe. Link to the recording is in the video description. While this is like 200 to something measures, I don't think it's particularly long. Might be like 5, 6 minutes. So, yeah, welcome to the world of bass clarinet and marimba. Okay, cool. So I think this piece really works as a closer, especially in this concert, etc. Because it's pretty much like a percussion piece for uh, this particular ensemble, right? The clarinet writing is very percussive. It doesn't try to, overdo any particular technique on the clarinet. It just sort of like finds specific notes on the clarinet where different techniques work well, and then that becomes like a effect in a more percussive context, right? Once we move on to that next section, it's like around, it's the first one around 180 or so, or 135. This stuff is actually a lot more difficult, I think, for the ensemble to coordinate because you just have the clarinet holding the straight 16ths together, right? Whereas up until that point, it's been like you either have eighths or 16ths in the marimba the whole time. Uh, so yeah, that's something to think about too. You can kind of hear in this performance what the ensemble strengths are, right? But yeah, from that point forward, the clarinet has a lot more responsibility in keeping the time and stuff. Interesting career trajectory, but kind of reminds me of a lot of composers in America. I think like AI is sort of something that a lot of composers are interested in. They may like double. Like I had a colleague at University of North Texas who minored in computer science and then ended up working um, at some sort of intersection between technology and art. When people pivot in their careers, they tend to stop composing. So curious if Young, also I've been pronouncing her name wrong in this video, but Young Wang, yeah, I'd be curious to hear more stuff of hers. Curious if she's still writing. Does she have more opportunities because of her new concentration and the career flexibility, or does she not really have the time to do so much? Is she just working in electronics now? You know, all these scores I think are associated with transient canvas. If I'm going to be honest, I think I mentioned that in the last video. But yeah, the next two are going to be from 2017. I guess I'll choose the order that I look at them in. Okay, so today's piece is Agitprop by Lansing McLoskey, composer I'm not familiar with at all. The score does not, just has bass clarinet and marimba in the score, and this score is from 2017. The recording on SoundCloud says it's for bass clarinet, marimba, and electronics. Um, so that is slightly different. I think the year is still the same on this recording. Just gotta scroll down to it. I couldn't find any YouTube recordings or anything on a quick Google search. Yeah, looking at the score, we got three movements. The first one is O Tempora. Second one is O Moras. And then the third movement is on a separate PDF. It's in two parts. The first one is Chorale Estis Genug. Part two is Aria, and that's it. So it looks fairly interesting just glancing through it. It's very well notated and stuff. But there's no front matter. And I'm assuming this is for commissioned by Transient Canvas, although I don't know exactly if it is. Can't confirm that. Lansing McLoskey was born in 1964. He's an American composer. He's been commissioned by the Fromm Foundation, Guerrilla Opera, Copeland House, the Barlow Endowment for the Arts, and other ensembles and institutions. Okay, so apparently he uh, planned to major in piano performance at UC Santa Barbara, but then heard some contemporary music, Barrios Sinfonia, which we've covered on the channel, Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, which we've also discussed on the channel, and Non al suo amante by Jacopo di Bologna. I think that is that's an Ars Nova composer, so that's like early music. And those pieces inspired him to study composition instead. His master's was at USC Thornton School of Music. After completing his master's, he worked for a company in Santa Monica, which I guess did he was there like to do some sound tech type work, but it was not a creative job, I don't think. Then he married his wife and then moved to Boston, where the two of them both pursued degrees. There he got his PhD at Harvard. Um, his wife got 3 degrees over the course of his PhD, all in opera performance. And then I guess, yeah, as a composition student at Harvard, he studied with Mario Davidovsky, who's famous for working with instrument and electronics, kind of a pioneer composer of that. And I guess his career kind of blew up after studying at Harvard because, as like most Ivy League composers, have way more access to academic jobs than anyone else in America. So, yeah, he taught at Harvard, then Wellesley College, and then the Longy School of Music, and finally found a faculty appointment at the University of Miami. I think that's a pretty fair like coverage of his biography. Everything else in this Wikipedia page are just like lists of accomplishments, performances, commissions, things like that. Then there's a section on his music. Yeah, it seems like his oldest opus. His numbers are sort of like in the 1990s, late 1980s. And he's still producing work now. I see a piece from 2024 here, some pieces from 2023, and I doubt that the Wikipedia is as updated as it could be. So, yeah, just another American composer that I wasn't familiar with. So I'm going to listen to this piece. The recording on his SoundCloud is 14 minutes long. I've put a link to that in the video description if you'd like to get to know this work as well. See if there's any program notes on the YouTube video. Commissioned by the Alba Music Festival for Transient Canvas, as I predicted. And it's based on 2 speeches that were delivered in ancient Rome. Cicero's oratorio to the Roman Senate in 63 BC, and Memmius's Against a Corrupt Oligarchy speech from 110 BC. Because this piece is from 2017, I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume it's about the first Trump presidency in the US, but in like a sort of roundabout way. Instead of being like directly political, it's more, kind of like about politics or whatever. Also, the Bach chorale that is quoted is called "It Is Enough!" exclamation mark. So, that sounds like the kind of thing that like a liberal would do to express anger at the first Trump presidency. I think we can all remember, or most of us can remember, what the climate was like in the arts in America at that time. So, yeah, let's get into this thing. Okay, so this one was an interesting listen. I sort of started ignoring the piece around the third movement, at least the score, because that third movement is more than half of the work. I think I accidentally exited out of the first 2 movements. One thing that struck me about the piece was like, well, first of all, the electronics in it are just like the speeches that are mentioned in the program notes just being recited in the background, and it's possible that you don't have them in the second movement because the second movement is so loud that they'd be covered up if they were. But yeah, it's kind of just like a speech going on and some droney stuff in the second half, and the music is just kind of happening on top. So in terms of like a conceptual piece, I don't know if it really works. I think the text could have been better integrated into the piece as a whole. It feels kind of added on. But in terms of like the music itself, which is what's in the score, I think it's really well written for the ensemble, and it looks really fun to play, easy to play. There's a lot of like ideas that really work. Like the second movement is the hardest one, and it's got lots of repeated notes, and like it's kind of just like a two-voice thing, passing around 16th note passages. It's very idiomatic. First movement is dead easy because it's mostly a bass clarinet solo with it's just like interrupted by the marimba. And then the third movement is also kind of like that, right? Except even more so. So the way that part two works is it's just kind of like a really long, drawn out bass clarinet melody, and It's sort of like imposed by these free marimba figures, which are just notated as grace notes, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, very open. The performers can kind of do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about being too in sync. And then, of course, the chorale stuff bookends the third movement. It's not that hard to play either. The third movement, I think there's like a drone added to the speech, and it like feels very static. Okay, well there you go. So there is like two speakers playing the text. I'm assuming, and then there's also a bunch of smartphones placed throughout the audience, which play MP3 files, which I'm assuming is the drone, is like a chord. So it's like a spatialized chord thing. Ah, man, I don't know if I like that idea. I mean, whatever. It's clearly like got a lot of things going on. I'm sure it's really up somebody's alley. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the chorale that's being quoted by Bach, but it's kind of distorted because of the multiphonics in the bass clarinet. That's a fun idea. Again, it's been done in a lot of other pieces as well. I'm sure you can find some George Crumb examples or something. Not sure what the chorale represents in this case, other than like the title is Esti Skinog, so maybe that's what it means. Tomorrow, I think we're doing another piece for the same ensemble from 2017. Okay, so today's piece is called Nostalgia Variations by Adam Roberts, and it's a piece for bass clarinet and marimba, and I think it's from 2017. It's going to take me a hot second just to get to the folder here. It's pretty substantial, looks like 18 minutes, and it's on legal paper, it looks like, which I actually I like legal for like Pierrot ensemble size things. I don't know if I like it for solo and duo stuff, but should I bother with the different variations? Okay. So you got the theme. Variation 1 is quarter equals 66. Variation 2, rhythmic, hard-edged. Variation 3, breathy, pensive, inward-looking. Variation 4, celebratory, spiraling. Variation 5, light, playful. It's really short. Variation 6, airy, light, delicate. Variation 7, hard-edged, lyrical, driving. Variation 8's got some aleatory stuff. Mournful, inward-looking. Variation 9, light, fluid, ethereal. Variation 10, hard, driving. Variation 11, spacious, delicate. I'm seeing a lot. Oh, and then the theme returns. I'm seeing a lot of like similar descriptive words. Okay, he's pretty accomplished in the US. So again, like all of these bass clarinet and marimba scores are commissions for a Boston-based ensemble. All the composers are American, I'm pretty sure. So another American. They have received a Guggenheim, a Fromm commission, A couple other awards, the ASCAP Young Composer Award, or at least one ASCAP Composer Award, and then an award from Eastman, an award from Harvard, and yeah, a whole bunch of other things. Bachelor's of Music from Eastman, directly into a PhD from Harvard, it looks like. Studying with David Liptak, Augusta Reed Thomas, Martin Bresnik, Stephen Stuckey, Bernard Rands, Julian Anderson, and Kaya Chernowin. He's taught at Harvard, Northeastern, Istanbul Technical University, and the University of Georgia. Right now, he's associate professor of composition at Kent State University, which is where? Let's see. In Kent, Ohio. Okay. And let me find a recording of this thing. So, Nostalgia Variations. Yeah, there's a YouTube one on Transient Canvas's YouTube channel. And here it says 2015. In my spreadsheet, I had this as 2017, so maybe it's this is like a newer version. Hopefully there's not too many changes. Link to this recording is in the video description. I encourage you to watch it with me. It's sort of in 11 little movements because it's theme and variations, so might be a lighter fare. And yeah, I'll see y'all in 20 minutes today. So my thoughts on this piece. There were moments in it that reminded me of Andrew Norman. I don't know a lot of composers that write in this style, but I think Stephen Stuckey's a good example too. This sort of like post-tonal American thing where the music is still very complicated and virtuosic. Like the theme itself is very tonal sounding, and I really like the first variation. It's like two really nice ideas for this ensemble playing in unison, and then like call and response really works well. And then the second variation is where you get a really big departure, and it gets kind of like very difficult to understand the relationship between the theme. So, there's like variations like that, which are very out there. And then often the quiet, like the extreme quiet ones, are closer to the mood and everything of the theme. So personally, I would have liked. I know it's a theme and variations, but I would have liked less contrast and just more like developing of things. But yeah, as the piece stands, it's like very contrasting, very virtuosic and rhythmic. But yeah, a lot of the ideas seem to be like very show-offy. Um, wouldn't it be cool if I did this? Like let's make the performers work real hard on my piece and show how great I am, kind of thing. The decision to do the video in parts makes me think that maybe it was a lot of work to rehearse, right? This performance in particular makes me think that they like did a number of takes and then took the best takes, made a video. It feels a bit like disconnected. It doesn't have that raw like live feel. Really big pauses between each variation, which kind of like kill the momentum for me. But they do perform it like it's very close to what's in the score. I like that it's just like a catalog of like ideas that would be interesting for this ensemble and ideas that work for this ensemble. So it's like really useful if you're trying to write for bass clarinet and marimba to have this sort of like this almost catalog, right? Like for example, Variation 9. This is really effective and really cool having them do this like repeated gesture over and over again, which isn't quite in unison. It's like sort of off kilter. So yeah, with this series, it's sort of like all of these are American composers, which I've never heard of before. So it's kind of interesting. This ensemble, Transient Canvas, definitely has like a type of composer they like to commission. But also, it's like kind of a window into a very specific scene because I don't know any of these composers. So yeah, I think tomorrow we'll be at the halfway point, actually.
long 2015. Um, Bass Clarinet Marimba, that's the ensemble, Transient Canvas, which all of their commissions seem to be pretty big, I'll be honest. Um, this score looks a bit refreshing compared to the other ones. It's like kind of neatly put onto landscape. I'm not a big fan of repeating the instrumentation on every system, but that's okay. Yeah, it looks all in all to be pretty interesting, and it's on the shorter side actually. It's only 150 something measures. So maybe this is under 10 minutes, although it's chord equals 60. Is it? I said Dewhirst. Maybe it's the worst. Anyways, so yeah, there's a recording on YouTube by Transient Canvas, and here's the composer's website. Under construction. Okay. What about her music? Under construction. Yeah. Well, okay. On Twitter, says they're a horn player and a professor as well as a composer. And then there is a bio on Transient Canvas's website. Okay, bachelor's in music from Ithaca College, then master's and doctorate at the University of Chicago. Now she's an associate professor at the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, teaching music theory, musicology, composition, horn, and popular music. So, and then a list of accomplishments like festivals, conferences, residencies, worked with violist Michael Hall and Joby Burgess, percussionist, actively performs in the 15 Minutes of Fame series, which is hosted by Robert Voisey. I've done a few of those as a composer. But yeah, now that I think of it, I did see her name as a horn player in some of those calls. I just didn't get accepted to that call. Um, and then as for the piece, there's a little program note here, which isn't in the score. Contemplation on the term shenpa, meaning attachment. It has something to do with Tibetan Buddhism. The urge, the hook that triggers our habitual tendency to close down when facing obstacles, great or small. Tightness, which has the power to hook us into self-denigration, blame, anger, jealousy, and other emotions, which end up poisoning us. So actually, yeah, the state of shenpa is not actually transcendental. It's like the opposite of openness. It's not a desirable state to be in. Sounds like kind of describes a lot of the way I've been living past few years. But ultimately, I think this piece is supposed to be positive. It's about like moving towards a state of openness from that um, more negative state. So yeah, kind of a cool program note. Still keeps things pretty open ended. And I think that's all I really want to say, honestly. Covered the composer, the piece, all that. So I'm going to have a listen to this. Link to the recording is in the video description for all of you to enjoy. Okay, yeah, so this one, I highly encourage you to listen to this one if you didn't just take the time to do so. Um, yeah, I wasn't expecting to like it because it was clearly going to be very tonal, like going into it, but it's actually my favorite so far. This is the fifth um, piece by Transient Canvas that we've listened to, and I think it's my favorite one just because it's like the ideas are simple. It's not trying to do anything clever with the ensemble. It's just like I think a lot of these composers are they're trying to like um make the two instruments match in some way. And in this piece, it's like, nah, the marimba is just the accompanist and the bass clarinet is the soloist kind of thing. And both manage to shine. And I feel like this is actually uh, this use of the ensemble makes the most sense. Like it's just like the bass clarinet is always going to be louder inherently, and marimba is just not a very loud instrument, right? There's a reason why it's like not, it's not an integral part of your orchestra, Um, and has to be orchestrated with a lot of care. So, the fact that the marimbist is able to play this whole piece with soft mallets, they don't have to worry about projecting, and they still get to shine as an accompanist, I think is really nice. And I think the piece just has really good pacing. Like it spends the first 5 minutes just sitting on these two notes, oscillating back and forth, and it's very inspiring. Just the amount of musical experience Michelle is able to draw out of those two notes. Um, so yeah, in a way, it kind of reminded me of like that Anna Lara piece we looked at, Berav, which was like had a gigantic cello solo, I believe, over a drone. It's like a string quartet. Um, yeah, something like that sort of thing, like very simple but successful musically, nothing fancy. Um, yeah, I kind of like the sensibilities of it. So that was Shenpa. Next, we're looking at a piece by Matthew Welch. Seems that most of these pieces were all kind of commissioned around the same time and for the same occasion. I'm sure they've gone on to do a lot of other stuff. I kind of got these scores from Transient Canvas around, I want to say 2022, 2021 maybe. So I imagine they did a lot of commissioning, ramping up to the pandemic, and then just kind of just um, shut down for a bit. Okay, so today's piece is for bass clarinet and marimba. It's called Lumba-Lumba Hijau by Matthew Welch. It was written for ensemble transient canvas. It's for bass clarinet in B flat and marimba. Looks like a lot of straight sixteenths. Um, the clarinet has a key signature of two sharps, which makes me think that this was just kind of like done directly into notation software, maybe, and then transposed. But yeah, looks like it was written, so we do have a date here. May 8th, 2015, written for Eric Dolphy and Lee Hyla. So let's look into these dedicatees and the composer. I don't know anything about Matthew Welch. Nice picture of him conducting, a couple pictures of him conducting on his website. He's interested in the hybriding traditional and innovative forms of Western music and world music. It's kind of interesting, drawing from 2 decades of research in diverse musical systems. Western classical music, avant-garde, jazz, improv, I'm assuming free improv, Scottish bagpipes, Indonesian gamelan, and Filipino music, Philippine cordillera. I'm assuming he quotes a lot of these different musics that he studied. His musical career began with Scottish Highland bagpipes in Pensacola, Florida, and he became very successful in piping, mastering the traditional repertoire and competing in pipe band competitions. And then he moved to Connecticut in 1999, where he started to become interested in Indonesian gamelan, which of course has a very long history of inspiring Western classical music, going all the way back to Debussy. Lots of universities across the U.S. and Canada, by the way, have like gamelan ensembles, which um, have to be like purchased and installed. And I remember at University of Toronto there was a gamelan ensemble which you could take. I didn't take it though. I kind of regret that. Um, Now, since 2001, he seems to be based in NYC, New York City. His current project is a full-scale opera titled "And Here We Are," um, based on memoirs of relatives who lived in the Philippines uh, and some who were civilian prisoners in World War II in Manila. Eric Dolphy, I think, is a composer. The name is very familiar. It's an American jazz instrumentalist and composer. 1928 to 1964 are his years. He didn't live very long. And based in LA. And then the other person that this is dedicated to, Lee Hyla, is also a composer. He was born in 1952 and died in 2014. He's from Niagara Falls, New York. Taught at NEC from 1992 to 2007. That's a university in New York. Or no, in Boston, my bad. Yeah, he's best known for his violin concerto and his second piano concerto, apparently. Also died very young at the age of 61. So, yeah, that's the piece. I guess Lee Hyla died very shortly before this piece was composed. So, interesting dedication, right? It's like a year after he died. Link to a recording is in the video description. I will let you know my thoughts on this. I'm going in pretty blind. Don't know what to expect today. Okay, so I hope you listen to this one as well. It's pretty short and harmless. It kept my attention pretty well. It reminds me mostly of like minimalist composers, right? You could argue that there's something like I was trying to think maybe there's some sort of gamelan aspect to it, but the rhythm is very simple, right? It's not very ethnic. It's just like 3 plus 3 plus 2 kind of rhythm, straight 16th throughout. This bass clarinet is given a very soloistic role, almost like a jazz saxophonist or something. There's even like a little written in bass clarinet solo. It seems like a very good use of the ensemble. It's nice and active and fast the whole way through, unlike most of the other pieces we've looked at for this ensemble. So I can see why they would um, take the time to share this one with composers who are writing for them, because it's like, yeah, it's a very obvious use of the ensemble that really works. They don't have to worry about matching volumes or anything like that. It gives the clarinetist a lot of room to breathe. It gives the percussionist some interesting things to do. So in that sense, I think it's really successful. And you know, I'm finding it hard lately to like make time for the channel. This was not very hard. It didn't, I didn't leave the listening session uh, with less energy. I think it is energizing. Okay, so today's piece is "Fool Me Once" by Barbara White. This is a piece for bass clarinet and marimba written for the Ensemble Transient Canvas in, I want to say, 2015. And there's a note here to the performers. Amy and Matt, you play this so fast. Wow, my idea of tempo is flexible as to whether truly manic or whether it has some give. We can discuss. And then the tempo marking, worked, not working, energetic in a disenfranchised way, like mice on treadmills. Okay. So it seems like a lot of they have this bold text in squares that is like directly to the two performers, sort of based on rehearsals, I'm assuming. And then they have other technique text that's just in square brackets, which is less direct. They also have stuff in italics and square brackets, sometimes no square brackets. So all of this is technique stuff, technique text. Interestingly, clarinet fingerings are given underneath the notes. I'm more used to seeing that above, so that it's out of the way of dynamics, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Not the neatest score. I'm seeing a lot of engraving mistakes actually, but I guess most performers wouldn't even notice. It's still readable. This one might be on legal paper. I know I said that about another piece which was on tabloid, but this does look like legal. It's very skinny. Born 1965, Barbara White is an American composer, clarinetist, and musicologist. They got a Guggenheim in 2003, and she is currently a professor of music at Princeton. Born in Boston, Massachusetts, Bachelor of Arts from Radcliffe College, Master of Arts and PhD both from University of Pittsburgh. Her dissertation for a PhD was a study of Judith Weir's The Consolations of Scholarship. Judith Weir being a British composer. And she has 4 albums. Apocryphal Stories, 2004, on Albany Records. When the Smoke Clears, 2007, New World Records. Weakness Koan Maka. This was a joint venture um, with another composer, and they played clarinet on this one. It looks like 2013 Albany Records. Shortly before writing this piece, then after writing this piece, and during the pandemic, more or less, she released a 4th album where she was both composer and clarinetist on that album. Also Albany Records. So. She has an opera called Weakness based on Irish mythology. And yeah, she started at Princeton University in a tenure track position in 1998 and has since gained tenure. So yeah, very nice career. Link to a recording of this piece is in the video description as always. Not sure where you would get a hold of the score. You might want to reach out to the ensemble because that's where I got this directly from them. So yeah, let's have a listen to it. I can't imagine it's very long. Maybe like 8 minutes. Yeah, like almost exactly 8 minutes. So, all right, let's do it. Okay. So I hope you listen to this one. It's pretty fun. Um, I really like this score. It's such a wonderful document of like the collaboration that went into the piece. There's all kinds of notes in it. Uh, like all kinds of words, which I didn't really get into, but it's fascinating how much of the piece is just like silences and stopping and starting, or like extremely quiet sounds, and yet there's all this technique text that's like so preoccupied with like how the performers need to feel all these spaces. Like it's really weird use of empty space, actually. Um, and it's something that I'm kind of a fan of, right? This like a very fast piece that just has like silence in it, and you have to still have to count through the silence or not. Like you can also pop like there might be fermatas and things, but like um yeah, it's kind of this fun like switching on and off thing. Not doesn't shy away from soloistic moments like having just marimba for a while, just clarinet. So I thought it was pretty effective. Um, it's not everyone's cup of tea, I can imagine, but I thought it really worked well for the ensemble. It clearly looked fun to play and sounded fun to play, and um, this performance in Boston. Everyone seemed to like it. It was well received, it looks like. There's also a date, the end of the score, January 10th, 2016. Okay, today's piece is called Sift by Daniel T. Lewis, written for the Ensemble Transient Canvas in 2014. That's bass clarinet and marimba. And yeah, the score looks fairly interesting. Just from the first line, you have some, looks like singing into the clarinet, maybe. It's hard to say because there's no front matter on this score, but a lot of these scores, we've been looking at a bunch of things that were written for Transient Canvas. Yeah, I have the suspicion that there are versions of these scores with title pages and performance notes and all that, but um, as they go through different revisions, maybe the composers neglect to include that in more recent versions, right? So it's like the final thing that the ensemble is working with, um, not necessarily the thing that the composer intends to publish and give to the public view. Um, like with a lot of new music, especially for odd ensembles, it's only ever performed once or by one group. But yeah, this one has a lot of interesting, like for one thing, there's the letters on top, which make me think like maybe embouchure shape or something, something phonetic. You got quarter tone accidentals. In the marimba, you have like a mix of like single note rolls and then normally played notes. But also there's muted notes, which is what I think the plus is indicating. Um, and yeah, everything is very quiet. So compared to the other scores we've looked at for Transient Canvas, this looks um, more timbral, maybe a bit more experimental. So in that sense, I'm a little bit more interested in it. Uh, in the later half of the piece, you do get more notey stuff in the marimba. So like some issues that are inherent in this ensemble that I've noticed is like the bass clarinet is much louder. Um, the upper, like the timbrely, they're able to blend really well, but like the dynamics are totally off kind of thing. And also the mode of performing is very different, right? So like when players are notoriously uh, and vocalists are notoriously bad at performing rhythms because the uh, the like mode of articulation and note production is so subtle that it's actually very hard to be rhythmic about it if you don't have experience on other instruments. Whereas like marimba, it's very clear where the note lands because you're just like hitting a thing. So the gesture is gigantic versus, a very subtle bodily gesture, right? See what I can find about this composer. Okay, they have a SoundCloud, it looks like, based in Chicago. Here's their website. I don't know why this wasn't, I guess it wasn't in the Google search page because it's not operational yet, but young composer compared to some of the other ones we've been looking at. 1986. Now based in Boston, I guess, or was based in Boston when composing this piece. Um, Masters from Boston Conservatory in 2012. 2 years later, wrote this for Transient Canvas, who's based in Boston. Nice list here of ensembles he's written for. Winner of the Boston Microtonal Society 2014 call for scores. Um, Performs with this group called Rested Field, which is an experimental improv trio, along with Chuck Furlong, clarinet, And Clifton Ingram, guitar. What does he play though? He's a percussionist. Okay. Yeah, similar. Like he plays in a group that has a similar instrumentation to Transient Canvas. Self-published through Next Arts. Development director of Equilibrium Concert Series, which is a Boston local concert series. So yeah, I think although I didn't go through everything, this bio kind of explains their connection to Transient Canvas, why they would be a good person to commission. Maybe if I look at their LinkedIn, I can find more background. They've always been a private music teacher and composer, but under no, um, you know, self-employed, not under any other uh, company. And then, yeah, they've been that development director for Equilibrium since 2012. So past 13 years, they've just been doing that. And the featured piece on their LinkedIn is the piece we're listening to today. So that's kind of cool. It's a it's a nice life, being able to get commissions and being able to live in a city like Boston. Although I'm sure it's also very hard to live in Boston in other ways. Um, so yeah, that's the introduction to Sift, recording in the video description, and yeah, this score has definitely piqued my interest just because of the way it's notated and um, it just looks very interesting. Okay. Yeah, so this is the first transient canvas piece we've looked at where I was like, I would probably write this. I really identified with a lot of the gestures and ideas. It's very kind of like sound mass-y. Um, I would say it's actually pretty spectral. Like, especially there's this moment where the composer introduces the higher register of the clarinet, right? And it's like, for the longest time we've been focusing on this unison, but then you get a major third, the lower octave, and I think the note that falls in between them, an octave up, right? Which is kind of like if you summed those two frequencies that make up a major third, you that's the summation tone. So you kind of get this and yeah, it's kind of like harmonic series E, right? You can also think of it as like partials. What would it be? Partials 4 and 5, and then partial 9, right, of the harmonic series. Uh, and I thought it was very effective, right? I mean, some people might be tempted to hear that as tonal sounding, but given how much time we spend dwelling on one note and then we introduce this new register, it feels very special. And all the subsequent music, it sounds kind of like Daniel seems to be doing a very good job of adding energy, infusing like uh, climactic stuff into the later sections without it feeling like there's a chord progression of any kind. It's kind of all just like one big sound mass, and I think that's a very special skill. Um, and then, of course, it does have this coda, which I think is maybe a weaker part of the piece. You could develop that a lot more. Maybe you have a whole piece or movement of a piece just based on this little thing. But yeah, also this idea of like using rests to chop up the music into these little gestures, and then the gestures being of varying sizes. Like this whole section seems to expand and then contract. But the opening section, it's like starts with very, very long phrases, which get smaller and smaller. That too is like very spectral. It reminds me of like Griset's ideas of like inspire, expire, right? I usually don't try to talk so technical about these things, but I was just hearing a lot of stuff in this piece that like I have experience writing that I probably would write, so it felt like yeah, I identified with it very strongly. Um, and yeah, that's I think the second last piece of the series. Today is the last bass clarinet and marimba episode. Again, transient canvas, Boston-based group. This piece is by Tina Tallon. It's called Dirty Water. She wrote it in 2014 and revised it in 2015. The score I have at least has no front matter, and it's in landscape with bass clarinet staff slightly smaller, kind of like a piano score, but the piano is marimba. And yeah, it looks fairly complex, leaping all over the registers of both instruments. I think I met Tina briefly at the International Computer Music Conference in Boston. Okay, so Tina is a creative technologist, composer, engineer, and technocultural historian, interested in artificial intelligence and its influence on society. She received her PhD in composition from the University of California, San Diego in 2020, and she currently is assistant professor of AI and music composition at the Ohio State University School of Music. I think I saw that job posting actually. So yeah, American schools, more and more of them are offering like new media and AI, music and AI, like types of courses. And yeah, it's interesting to see who is going in that direction. Lots of people are jumping on the AI train, honestly, and there's clearly jobs in it. So her concert music and interactive installations have been widely performed and presented by ensembles. So here she lists the LA Phil New Music Group, Ensemble Intercontemporain, Talea Ensemble, and she lists a few venues here. All of this stuff is very, seems very separate from this piece, which is just doesn't seem to involve AI or technology at all. It's just a very straightforward chamber music piece. Her bachelor's was a degree in biological engineering and music from MIT in 2011, and her master's of fine arts was just a straightforward music comp, minoring in theory, or maybe double majoring from Brandeis University. Yeah, her trajectory is like actually not like she's not that much older than me, it seems, like kind of entering her bachelor's 4 years before I started mine, or 5 years before I started mine. Her primary composition teachers include Peter Child, David Rakowski, Lei Liang, sorry. She's also studied with Miller Puckett and Tom Erb. Yeah, her website is very nicely laid out. A lot of pieces here, actually. A lot of, like, about as much large ensemble as solo on the website, and then a ton of chamber stuff. And a lot of these are commissions. Electronic music is also pretty huge. Video installations and sound art. I like that as a category, but there's only three pieces here. So yeah, a lot of her writing, so her research is published in more like I guess popular media. Like these don't seem to be peer-reviewed journals, but you have a couple radio stations, NPR, the New York Times, or sorry, and the New Yorker and Politico, all these various outlets. She's been able to lecture on them or publish articles. And maybe I should read up on this piece specifically to see what the nature of that was. What does this have to do with her current research? It's the first piece of hers performed in Boston since she left for UCSD to do her PhD. It's inspired by, I guess, a hit song by the Strandals of the same name. And You got a nice bio here as well, which is maybe a bit more dated. And yeah, this program note seems to be really focused on the city of Boston, Amy and Matt's work there, and the significance of this commission on her career, kind of thing, which is kind of a nice sentiment. So, um, link to this video or recording rather is in the video description. I encourage you to listen to this piece. It's actually on the shorter side, like 6 minutes. Um, and then I might say something about this whole series at the end, and maybe we'll spin the wheel and figure out what the next genre is that we're going to tackle. Yeah, so it's a interesting piece. It kind of has a nice form where we have a nice middle section here where it gets quiet and we just have tremolos and things. Um, really inventive use of silence. That was something I noticed immediately. Um, and also this sort of like leaping around in and out of each other's ranges. It actually really works well with this ensemble just because the two instruments are so easily identifiable, right? They just have such different different like envelopes or you know, it's very easy. There's no risk of anything blending together, you know. Yeah, my thoughts on the bass clarinet marimba series. This one I was a little bit hesitant to do just because it's all kind of it all attests to the work of one ensemble. But I think that's kind of a unique window into what contemporary music actually looks like in the US, right? It's like there's a lot of these independent ensembles, and I'm increasingly seeing more and more of them are just duos, commissioning works, you know, being resident ensembles at this or that university. That's kind of just the way it is in the States. And if you're lucky enough to live in a major metropolitan area, you might get a commission from an ensemble like this. New York, of course, is like full of them. And in Canada, like in Toronto, there were a number of ensembles like this, but the model's slightly different just because there's so much more government funding for ensembles. So you would get kind of like this old guard of ensembles that always get funding and can expect funding, and you know, all of them were established at a certain time, like the 90s or early 2000s. Um, in the US, it's a little bit, seems to be a little bit more like grassroots, start your own thing. And I think Transient Canvas has done a good job of that. They might have, they might be a nonprofit at this point or something. Hopefully, this piqued your interest and you liked at least one of these composers. Thought it was a great mix of male and female composers and a fairly diverse list of pieces, although they're kind of all clumped in the same like time range, like 2010s, 2020s. Maybe it also inspired you to write for that type of ensemble. Okay, so the next genre is going to be toy piano. Nice. So I definitely have more than three scores with recordings. Um, this is going to be a fun one. I was kind of obsessed with toy piano during the pandemic and amassed these scores at that time. And I don't know if I have the John Cage. Yeah, the whole genre started by, of course, John Cage's Suite for Toy Piano way back in 1948. So it's kind of an interesting genre in that way, historically.